I don't use this as time, I think you'll be able to hear. I've been coming to Paulding County now for 15 years, and I was telling some people, I live in Fayette. I know more people in Paulding than I do in Fayette, and I've been there for 25 years. What a great place. I see guys like Ed and Philip and the mayor here, and this has been almost my second home coming up to Paulding County. Well, what I want to do is take about 20 minutes to talk about the reservoir, to give you some real-time updates of what's going on with the reservoir. We did meet with the Corps of Engineers yesterday. We talked for 2 hours about the long-eared northern bats. And so we're getting our arms around that newest little hurdle that's in our way, but I think we're able to get by that. But let's go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, or you want me to slow down, or I've thrown a term out, I know with engineers sometimes we'll throw out a term and you go, I have no idea what he said. Ask me and I'll try to bring it down to terms that the layman can understand. You have the little device, oh, it's right there. This has been going on, really, the Paulding reservoirs, since 1999. So this is a 16-year evolution, and we don't have a reservoir yet. It's a new drinking water supply for Paulding County. It's an off-peak pump storage reservoir. It's a nice way of saying you're putting a straw in the Etowah River, and you're going to put it in a hole in the ground that's going to be held back by a dam. So we're not damming any creeks, we're not damming any streams. It's an off-peak. So why are you doing off-peak? Well, there's a dam at Lake Allatoona that they do power releases. So when they generate power, they let all this water go down the Etowah River. We're going to have a pump that kicks on and captures some of that water from the Etowah River. That would be just flowing down to other power supply dams in Alabama. Hence, that's why if you look at all the potential reservoirs throughout Georgia, this is the least confrontational, because of the fact that water has been used to do what it was meant to do, generate power. Now, when you get above that dam, Cobb, Marietta, and some of those, that's why they're having problems, because they're seen as taking water for water supply that was intended for power generation. And that's the rub when you're dealing with power generating lakes in the Corps of Engineers. And so it's where you take the water, how you take the water, and that's why Paulding and Richland Creek is really a neat project. It voted on in '99. What the county's trying to achieve is rate stability. You buy water from Cobb Marietta, you have no raw water supply in this county. And if you go throughout Metro Atlanta, you can't find anybody in this position where you have no raw water supply. I go back to Fayette County. We got 110,000 people in Fayette County, smaller than you guys. How many reservoirs do we have in Fayette County? 4. We have 33 million gallons of capacity. And we just finished Lake McIntosh, which is around a golf course. We're putting them in all the time. It really has never been a problem, but the county is flush with water. They've impounded some streams, but they've got a very robust network, as do a lot of counties throughout Metro Atlanta. The city of Atlanta right now, people don't realize this, they only have 3 days of raw water supply. They pump out of the Chattahoochee, and they pump it to the Hemp Hill plant. If people know where the Hemp Hill plant is, it's near Georgia Tech, in sort of that midtown area. But that reservoir, which is really just a big pond that they've built, they've only got 3 days of raw water supply. That thing feeds Hartsville Airport. So with Atlanta just got an agreement this past week, they are going to pump from the Chattahoochee and tunnel to an old quarry that's about 2 miles from the Hemp Hill water plant. And they're going to be able to store 4 billion gallons of water to provide some security for the city of Atlanta. And I tell you this to let you know there's a lot of communities trying to struggle with this whole idea of water and raw water supply. And if your community wants to grow and you want to sell businesses to come here, you can't tell a big business that, by the way, we buy our water, we can't guarantee your rates, and by the way, the contract runs out in 2032 with Cobb Marietta. What are you going to do then? Now, will Cobb Marietta cut you off? Probably not. But they can affect how much you can take, what's the billing. So really, there's a lot of uncertainty that you crank into your system in 2032 if you don't address your water supply. Roughly 305-acre lake, and we'll give you a little more pictures here shortly. Right now, we're going through the permitting phase. It's taken 16 years. We're very close to the finish line. We've had to do more documentation and studies than you could ever guess. You know, when I hear some of the rumors throughout the county about you're going to do this, you haven't accounted for this, trust me, we've accounted for everything. For every rumor or story you've heard, there's 6 stories of reality that the government requires from you. this species, this amount of flow, this amount of water, this amount of turbidity in the water, this amount of everything is being considered in the permitting process. Nothing that the county is doing, be it with Brown and Caldwell, or with the county, with the Corps, and all the engineers is done in a vacuum. We have people looking at us from all over the nation of how we're doing this. You can assure we're taking our time to do it right. This is a little old. We thought we would get the permit in the first quarter. The bat has slowed us down a little bit. But right now, we met in Savannah about 4 or 5 weeks ago. We met yesterday. I think we're going to get the first phase of the permit, which is called a water quality certification, which comes from the state. And the state says the water you're pulling out the Etowah is, after treated, is drinkable. It's good water quality. And we think we're 20 days from getting that. And from that, the 404 draft permit should come right after that. You wait for comment for about a month, and we should be on our way. The way things are looking right now, maybe June with the 404 permit. And at that point, everybody in this county should clap, because that is a hurdle that has taken almost 16 years to get over. Chairman Austin, I can't say enough about him. I've seen him down there with the Corps. I've seen him frustrated with people, frustrated with the colonels, and saying, you know, this is going on too long. I've seen him in front of congressmen. He is pushed, and he's pushed us too. At times we see, David, we can't do that. We can't speed it up any faster than it's going right now, but the chairman has done a good job of pushing this. What is the reservoir components? By the way, this is the Paulding-Bartow County line, just for reference. Can you see here, that's the Cardinal Airport. So if you got a little bit of a reference. In essence, there's 5 major components to this water supply reservoir. There's the dam and the reservoir, which is being designed by Arcadis. They're about a 15 to 20,000 engineering firm headquartered internationally in the Netherlands, and they know something about holding water back in the Netherlands. So that was one of the reasons the county said, you know, who's pretty good at holding water, dealing with water? How about the Dutch? They wrote the book on it. So Arcadis is designing the dam and the water plant. In fact, Arcadis is, well, their main office is out of Chattanooga. They do a lot of work with TBA. They do dam inspections throughout the country. River intake and pump station. So you're going to pull water at point 2 there out of the river. We're still sort of figuring out what exactly that point. We've got it pretty much nailed down, but we're making sure it's the perfect point. You got raw water pipeline, which is just taking the Etowah and dumping it right into the reservoir. And then you got the water treatment plant. I'll talk a little bit about the finances of the treatment plant, and we'll get further in the slides. And finally, distribution systems improvements. Since you're buying from Cobb Marietta, you've got different points throughout the county, north, south, that dumps right into the system. Since you're going to have your plant in the northern part of the county, there's going to have to be distribution lines that gets it down to the south. And so what we've had to do is going through financial analysis of saying, how much water is the county going to need at a certain point in time, and let's build the infrastructure commensurate with when the county needs it and when they can afford it. So all of this financial analysis, which has been going on for the better part of 5 years, we're getting honed in on some solutions. A little bit about the intake. This is an engineering diagram that gives me headaches. I'm a mechanical and an MBA, but my civil guys came up with this. But it's an idea. Here's the pumps that are in the river. And these pumps, as you can see right here, as I was telling Pat, you know, people saying you're gonna kill the Cherokee daughter, you're gonna kill the Amber daughter. No, we're not. Trust me, for us to put those in a river, we go through more engineering specifications with the Corps and the river keepers. That's got 0.5 feet per second. You could put your foot next to it, and it's not gonna pull it into that. It's a low head pump. Now it's a big surface area, but it's a low head pump. So those pumps are designed for any and all environmental issues you can think of. So it's not a big straw that's just sucking everything that's going by. 0.5 feet per second. As I can say, special intake. But it's pulling a lot of water. The reason it has to pull a lot of water, when those pumps are on, we got to get it. And then we're going to put it into the reservoir and turn them off when the dam is not releasing. So if you hear stories about, well, they're going to be taking all the water out of the Etowah during low flows, we can't pull it out during low flows. Our permit will not allow us to do that. But it will give you a lot of storage. 3.4 billion gallons. About 305-acre lake. passive recreation. In fact, the biggest question we get is when can we boat on it? Forget the drinking water, is when can we get our boat on it? So you can't put you can get an electric motor, but you can't put a gas motor in there. It's a 115-foot earthen dam, approximately 90 feet of a grout curtain. Let me explain a grout curtain. You know, I've heard people say, well, you're putting this in rock. Welcome to Georgia. I mean, that's what you have to deal with, Georgia. Stone Mountain's there for a reason. You can see it, but people don't understand below the ground in Georgia, you got rock everywhere. And yes, there's a Cartersville fault line that's in this area. It's just the nature of the topography. We've had probably $2 million worth of geotechnical work drilling borings throughout this location. So it's not a matter of just putting it here because that's where we happen to pick it. The geology lent itself. However, there is some rock below there that's fractured. What you do is you inject grout in all those fractures 90 feet below the dam to keep the dam from leaking. So that's what a grout curtain is. Now, as I was talking to a man that helped doing the geology of this, he was actually PG1, the first professional geologist in Georgia. He has since passed away. He said, let me tell you something, all dams leak. They all leak. It's just that you have to minimize it, and that's why we're going the extra step with the grout curtain. Any questions on the curtain while we're doing it? There's the intake of the pump station, and so we'll have to put a pump in the reservoir to pump it to the water plant. So that's another part of the infrastructure. And we have to put the pumps at different levels because if you do go through a drought period and that lake drops, you better make sure you have pumps at different levels of water levels so you can account for different segments of the water when it goes up and down. The water treatment plant. It's eventually going to be up to 36 million gallons a day. The initial sizing is 18 million gallons. And this is just a series of technologies to get it to where you can drink it. In essence, with water or wastewater, you're putting coagulants in there, which takes the particles and binds them together, and they settle out. Then you put a series of filters. You got charcoal filters. You got dissolved air flotation, and eventually you get it to the point where it's drinking. This is the exact same technology that Cobb Marietta uses to their treat plant. And the reason we're doing that, we want to make sure the chemistry of this water is similar to what you already have, so when you run it through your pipes, you're not shocking the system. So there's a lot of thought that went into this technology, and it's great technology. Yes,
going back to the slide beforehand,
okay.
How many pumps will you have
for the
different levels?
I think it's 4 per level, so there's like 3 different levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the bottom of that is called, anytime you have a reservoir, they got what they call a conservation pool. That's the real, when you're really down to nothing, and we'll have pumps in the conservation pool also. Good question, Mary. Let's see. Did it stop on me, or? You got it? The distribution system I talked a lot about. It's since we have to get it from north to south, you're going to see some improvements in the distribution systems. One thing we have met with the Water and Sewer Advisory Board for the county, because some of these pipes and these plants are big, and this is nothing against the contractors in Paulding County, they don't do projects of this size. But as we start to get in the distribution system with some of the smaller lines, we're working very hard to get some local contractors involved. It's just that we've had to explain to people when you're building a dam, you just don't let everybody build the dam. The contractor we have is they're called Pizza Galli. They're out of Vermont. They're some of the best in the country. They did very good during the interviews, and we're glad to have them here. So rest assured, if you look at the team we've put in place, even the people from Georgia Finance, they told the county, you couldn't have done a better job of bringing financial consultants, engineering consultants, and constructors from all over the country in here to help with this project. A testament really to Michael Carter and some of the help he got from Mike Jones. So they really stepped out, got that taken care of. As you said, we're the program manager. I'm in Caldwell. We're headquartered in Walnut Creek, California, outside San Francisco. Our largest office is here in Atlanta. We've got about 60 to 70 people in the area of Hammond Drive, Perimeter Mall. That is a horrible place for traffic. I tell you, when they called me and they said, we'd like you to work with us, I said, I don't go to Perimeter Mall. And they said, well, you can work in Fayette County as much as you want. So nothing, the commercial announcement about the transportation, but Arcadis is the designer, in Pizzagalli. In fact, Pizzagalli got selected 2 days ago to do the tunnel and the rehabbing of that quarry in Atlanta. So they're doing the two biggest. These guys have picked up almost $500 million worth of work in the last few months. However, they're big and they can handle it. And in fact, I called the guy who's the head of the region. I said, remember what project you got first? You got the reservoir first. And so they're going to take care of us. And he's on point. Okay, this is a little bit of a busy chart. Here's what I'm showing you is that when we went through the financial analysis, we hired a firm out of Charlotte, North Carolina. They're called Raftelis, R-A-F-T-E-L-I-S. They're part of our program team. They're a boutique firm, and all they do is rate analysis on water and sewer systems throughout the country. So we knew in order to get the kind of money we were asking the state for, we needed the best and the brightest to make the case for the county. Anything you see here came from Raftelis, and then once again, we managed to get some great funds from the state. Here's what you're looking at. Is the different scenarios that were out in front of us. If we built a small plant, over time, net present value, and I think most people understand where net present value, you take all your costs and you bring it up to now. This is what a 5 MGD plant with a reservoir would cost, $745 million. You go, Mark, why is it costing so much? Because if you build something of that size, guess what, you still got to buy it. It's not enough. You got to buy it from Cobb Marietta. So the smaller the plant, the greater we still had to purchase and create uncertainty in the system. So counterintuitively, the bigger the plant, which the plant was going to cost you more, the overall net present value was going to drive down. So we looked at different scenarios. Boom, boom. And this is what you're looking at if you do nothing. And we've actually, somebody admonished us. They said we were lowballing the rate increases we're probably looking at Cobb Marietta. So this is probably really conservative. And the reason is we didn't want to go radical and put an increase in there that took it up to $1.2 billion, because then we'd have people shooting at us and say, you're lying. No, we were very conservative. This is probably as good as you're going to get down the road in terms of cost of time. So yes, is it impactful for the people living nowadays because your rates, you have to pay for the plant? Yes, it is. But if you go 20, 30 down the road, when a lot of us are gone, you've got two choices for your children, that or that. And this is a similar chart, and this is cost per 1,000 gallons of water. The gray line you see, this is doing nothing. This is where you're going. And then the other lines show if you build a bigger plant and you build the distribution to a certain size. So the green line is the one that we've selected. Just to give you a little bit of financial. This is the price tag. It's not cheap, and it's broken into different components. The raw water intake in the pump station, roughly $14 million. Raw water pipelines, about $8 million. The dam and the reservoir is about a $50 million project. Treatment plants are not cheap. Obviously, the more you go, the bigger they get, the more expensive they get. However, once you get to 12, go from 12 to 18, that's a lot cheaper than going from 0 to 12. That marginal 6 MGD was not a whole lot, and so you create a footprint for the plant so we can expand it eventually to 36. So that's what we came up with. Interesting, when we selected Pizzagalli to do the project, we used a delivery method that's called CMAR, Construction Management at Risk. And it's a construction mechanism where you can encourage the contractor to come up with a guaranteed maximum price up front. And then you can negotiate it down or do value engineering. And the reason we did that is that we wanted the people of Paulding County, not after the design was done and went out to bid, this is how much it cost. We wanted to know how much it cost up front. And that's why we're going to pin them down on that guaranteed maximum price. And we had them doing this over the holidays. And I think their first pass came in, and if you combine, they're doing this one, so 1 and 4, that's about $82 million. Their first pass came at $97 million. Yeah, after I gave Mike Jones CPR, he said, oh, we got to get that down. So we met, we looked at different pump station configurations, we looked at a lot of different things, and we knocked it down about $15 million. So, and one of the power companies was helping us out. So it's been driving down, and we're continuing to drive that down. And this number even has, I think, a $5 million contingency in there. So, yes?
Just two questions while you're on this slide.
Yes.
That doesn't include the acquisition cost of the property?
No, that's everything.
That is it?
Yeah, that's everything.
Okay. And then when I think of treatment plant, I'm thinking wastewater treatment. That's not wastewater treatment.
Oh, no. Actually, to tell you the truth, a wastewater plant of this size, you can double it. Wastewater plant's expensive. And it's interesting, when I was talking with the guys with Ralph Tallis, the financial guys, they said, this is the first project we've dealt with in a long time that's actually going to be solvent. Because they have to deal with these communities up in the Northeast that deal with combined sewer overflows, and they're getting fined by the EPA millions of dollars a month, and they've got to go borrow $4 to $5 billion worth of money to fix their wastewater system. This is actually, if you think about it, this is establishing a greenfield business. This is a brand new business. And hence, that's why the program managers are on board, because the county is not positioned to deal with $185 million to be spent over 5 years. And so you can either staff up, or you bring somebody in that comes in and helps you, and then they staff down. And that was the whole idea behind David Austin and the guys coming up with the whole program management concept. In essence, that's why we're here. We're going to get it going, get it fixed, train the people, get more people into the water system, taking care of the plant, and then we're going. It froze up again. Oh. Really froze. Here, right there. So I talked about program manager, and this is in essence what we're doing. One of the things that we did, and I talked to the people at the county months ago, and I saw some of the things going on with the airport, and that was unfortunate. I've been coming up here for years, and I've never seen that sort of discord. And I know it happens. It happens in Fayette. It happened over the Moody's movie studio. But we made a conscientious effort to get ahead of the message here, to really let people know what's going on. If you've got a question, you can call me anytime, and we'll answer it. We'll put it on the website, and we'll take any question. And in fact, I've got a whole sheet of frequently asked questions we're already getting. And we're not perfect, but one thing we will do, we'll let you know what's going on. And so there's stakeholder, there's utility performance services, staff augmentation. I talked about financial analysis, and there's project coordination. There's a lot going on right now. And it'll get real busy here once we get that green light with the 404 permit. This is just a little bit more of program manager, some of the things that we're involved right now. We're helping with the finance. The county's done a great job. You've picked up, I think, $51 million in low interest money. I think you got a tranche of $21 million, that's 1.8% money. Another tranche of $1.9 million money. And what's interesting, the state and GEF has been great, and they said, you know what? We're going to change our terms. You're not going to have this pay this back till you actually start pouring water. Originally, they told us once we started construction, and then the clock starts. So the GEFA and the guys at the state and the governor's office, the governor is probably the biggest advocate of this project, of any project going on in the state of Georgia right now. The amount of resources he's put to help Paulding County, staggering. I've never seen it. He put a guy, Russ Pennington, and I've known Russ for 10 years, and Russ was with the Finance Association, GEFA, and his number one goal is to get this water supply reservoir. And I think that's one message you need to tell people in this county. This is not being done in a vacuum, just Paulding County. There's a lot of people watching you in the governor's office to make sure this water supply reservoir happens. In fact, I won't say who's told me at the very senior level. They said in an ideal world, this reservoir would have been the water supply reservoir wholesaler for all of Northwest Georgia, vice Cobb Marietta, because of the location where it is downstream of that dam. So there's a lot of big aspirations as a water supply purveyor at Paulding County. This is where we are. We've done design, bid, build, and that's the classic. An engineer designs it, they put it out for bid, then they build it. The CMAR, which we just went through, which is construction management at risk, is another mechanism that we've used. So we're using different delivery methods for different parts of the reservoir to maximize the funds that we have to get it done and optimize the delivery of the infrastructure. So it's been a really great exercise putting this together, great collaboration. Very detailed slide, but a lot of thought has gone into it. There's the schedule. Now we're already behind because we don't have that permit yet, but these slides are available. If you need them, Pat, just let me know. We'll get you those slides, but that's a little bit of the schedule. And there's I can assure you there's a schedule with a lot more granularity than this one. Like there's 40 pages, but I try to cut it. So we've got to account for everything. Yes, Mayor.
Since I can't really see it
Oh, yes.
back here. So we put the shovel in and we moved the first piece of dirt
Yes.
till we put the first drop of water. Roughly how long?
It's 4 years, maybe 3.5 to 4 years. That's what we're looking at. You look at Lake McIntosh, I go back to Fayette, I think they took them much longer because they had some last minute issues with permitting and grubbing some trees, and Coweta got in a little bit of a match with Fayette County, but nonetheless, once we turn dirt, this thing's going to go real fast. Because then really the big hurdles, the regulatory hurdles are out of the way.
Excuse me, was that 4 years that there's water going into the reservoir, or 4 years that it's coming into the house?
No, it's 4 years will be coming into the house. Okay. What's interesting, when I went back to Lake McIntosh, they said it would take 6 months to fill it. But you remember when that rain hit? It was a couple years ago. We had like 13. They filled it in 2 months. I'm ready to go. So, you know.
We don't want another.
Now, the good thing here is that is because they were damming a stream. Ours is going to be dictated by that pump. They're going to be generating power. So we're going to have a little more understanding of when we can fill that, how fast we can fill that up.
And how often do they open that dam? How many times a day? Twice?
What do you mean open the dam?
Oh,
I think there's 4 power releases a day.
4?
Yes. And I think the CFS, it goes from like 210 CFS to 8,000 CFS. That water's ripping through there. And we're turning on and grabbing as much as we can, and then they shut down the dam and we shut down the pumps. And I think that's a big misconception. Oh, you're going to take water, you're going to take it from Alabama. No, we're not. That water's like a semi going down the interstate. We're just hanging on for a minute or two. Stakeholder communication, contact us, rcrwater.com. I got a call from the air show people. I'm probably going to have a tent out there. We've been talking to the kids at the elementary schools. We're going to have magazines for them to color, pictures of the dam. We've met with the commissioners. We've met with the media. If you want to meet with us and talk about the reservoir, we'll tell you. We'll tell you exactly what's going on. And then we're going to have a groundbreaking ceremony. There's going to be a lot of people with tears because this has been a hard fight to get this thing going. As I said, that's why I'm here today. You know, when Pat Tibbetts called me up and said, can you go talk to PBA? I said, I'll be there. Myself or Kelly Comstock, and Kelly's is the overall program manager. I'm handling a lot of the program initiation, but Kelly is actually the president of the Georgia Water Association. So he's speaking to a group on water. He's one of the best water guys in the state. He's your program manager. He's done all the DeKalb's facilities. Has anybody ever seen the Johns Creek Environmental Campus? It's a big wastewater plant near the Chattahoochee River in Roswell. It looks like a university. It's a wastewater plant. And the houses right next to it are about $500,000 homes. And that was Kelly's design, and our team, we did that plant about 5 or 6 years ago. Now that was expensive. This is cheap compared to that. But when we actually let the homeowners pick where they wanted to plant a tree to block their view of the wastewater plant. So it got to be a little pricey because we were told to. Like I said, we'll respond to any questions. If you want to be on our rotation of the email, Pat, send us some. Anybody send us an email, we'll be glad to give you updates. This is old, but our visitors have gone through the roof. 904 page visit. This was back in late October, 5.4. But that's the picture of the website. And then I wanted to sort of tease you from a recreation standpoint. This young lady caught this off the pier at Lake Kedron in Peachtree City in July. The thing is 29 inches long. It was a 12.1 ounce fish, and it was all in the papers down there. And her and her girlfriend, it got loose when they got it next to the dock. They both jumped in the water and jumped on it. So it's just, so that's a wife right there. She went right over, but she was the big hit in Fayette County. But this is 3 of our reservoirs. That's Kedron, that's Lake McIntosh, and then that's Lake Peachtree, which actually has been drained because we have to deal with the Safe Dams program in the state of Georgia right now. So questions? That's Paulding County, Richland Creek Reservoir. Hopefully you learned something today, and if not, you send me an email. I'll be glad to answer that. Anything else? Yes.
You said a whole 3.4 billion
yes, sir.
gallons. How much is what's the requirement for Paulding County? What are we requiring it for? water?
Well, I think right now your usage is somewhere in the 8 to 9 range. So you've got probably 36 days of supply there. You got a lot of supply.
And is there any talk of selling some of that water as well?
You got to be careful when you do that. I think what you do is you build it and you see what the state mandates with regard to other communities possibly buying it from you. And there's things in the state of Georgia and throughout the country called interbasin transfers. You can't take water over one ridge and ship it to another area because it's not allowed. Now, if you go out west, the west wouldn't even be there if they didn't have interbasin transfers. But interbasin transfers are a big no-no in the east. The only one that I know of, I think Greenville, South Carolina, actually pulls out of the Savannah River, and they're not in the Savannah River basin. But if you take water from an area, you're supposed to leave it in that area or in that river basin. So that would be one thing that we have to consider. That's not going to be necessarily a problem with Richland Creek, but it's always something you have to watch out for whenever you start selling water. Yeah, down the road, maybe you're selling it back to Cobb Marietta, because if they start getting squeezed on the Hickory Log and their dam and their water supply, who knows? Who knows? Yes?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. What's Cobb going to do with the capacity that they'll have now? There was talk about them selling it to Atlanta, but it doesn't sound like that would be necessary if Atlanta's taking over a quarry.
Well, yeah, but Atlanta's still going to have issues and need water and probably emergency water. But what I think Georgia's trying to do is called the Texas water model, where you're more you look at water in total, not be on a county basis. And so if we free Cobb Marietta to sell water to other areas that need it, it really helps the system more because you're not stressing the system out where the water is needed. So to answer your question is, I think that they're going to start finding new customers. They understand that this is coming. It's another thing that we've heard. We are not building anything till that permit. Now, yes, we have engineers we have to have on board because that money that we have to spend is going to start ticking on us. It's going to be, we're going to start paying on it. And also another thing is we would all agree we're going to have a gap. We're going to have to go to the bond market. We know interest rates are low right now. The quicker we can get this done, the better rates we can get. We don't want Janet to do her thing and hit us with high interest rates in the next year. So, we need people to root for us from a financial standpoint. Let's get this thing done so if we go to the bond market, we can get a little better rates. Any questions?
Yeah, how much bonding are we going to actually have to do?
Great question. We've picked up $51 million in GFA loans. They just gave us $15 million in direct investment, Pat, which is basically free money. The only thing that comes with direct investment, we heard, wow, if the state has direct investment, they're going to tell Paulding what to do. They're not going to tell us what to do. The only thing they want is something that is definable. So there's going to be a water line that goes down State Road 61, is that right? So we're going to put it in the state's easement. So they can say, yeah, that water line's ours. Now, are they going to turn it up? No. If you talk to Kevin Clark of GFA, they want nothing to do with operating the system. All they want is water supply for Georgia, and they're using whatever mechanism they can. There's $15 million there. I think they gave another $9 million low-interest loan. That's about 80 to 90. I'm guessing somewhere between 80 to 100 million is probably going to go to the bond market. But don't quote me on that yet. We're still nailing that down, but that's what you're looking at. I have frequently asked questions. I've got our Richland Creek Reservoir card here if you want it. If I missed something you didn't want to ask in public, you want to send me, let me know, and I'll be glad to help you out. Thank you for the invitation, and hopefully we learned something today.
Thank you. Very informative presentation. Thank you, Mark. Okay, let's see if I can...